When we first started researching about homelessness in Greenville, we soon realized that there are various organizations that already deal with this issue, most of which were focused on single male or single female homeless shelters. We decided to make this a transitional family shelter since such shelters were rare and the number of homeless families was constantly rising. This is a document that shows the site and the current locations of available facilities in the area. Let me share this visual logic equation with you, but I want you guys to stay focused with me and I promise it'll be worth it. This cute little girl is 5-year-old Sally, and that's Bob, her dad, a single father who had lost his job over a year ago due to the recession. In fact, it has been more than just a job loss for him. He lost everything, including both his home and self-esteem. He is too embarrassed to even turn around and show us his face. To address this family's homelessness, we need to start with a shelter, a physical building. No building can stand up without its structure. The structure in this homeless shelter is the living wall, a wall constructed from salvaged castellated beams from the city of Greenville. What is special about this shelter is how it facilitates the interaction between other communities in Greenville and the shelter's community. The Pottery Society of Greenville, for example, is in continuous collaboration with the shelter. Members of the Pottery Society come over to teach residents how to create pots and interact socially with the residents. Residents like Sue and John benefit from these encounters from 1. A social aspect where they become engaged with social levels different than theirs, and that's always beneficial. 2. The physical aspect where they start producing pots that would then go to fill up the holes of the castellated beams in the living wall. Other communities like the Glass Society of Greenville would display certain artworks within the holes of the living wall. The pots that Sue and John made hold vegetables, herbs, flowers, and various other plants that create the living wall. These pots also work as a secondary insulating system due to the clay's high resistance value. Edibles grown in the living wall are consumed by the residents as part of their daily nutrients, and or taken to the market. Pottery, produce, flowers, herbs, and much more are sold in the market, and the revenue goes back to support the shelter. Now you have to understand how important this is. Shelters usually lack continuous support, and this feature would allow this shelter to have a continuous, steady income. The market has been designed to continue on functioning in all seasons. This diagram shows how in the summer the 120-foot cantilever acts as a shading device, and in the winter, due to the low sun angles, it allows sun to go under it to warm people up, while protecting them from the rainfall. In the living wall, nature becomes the structure, and the living wall is brought to life by the residents, for the residents, in a circle of branching interdependencies. These are the locations of the living wall within the building, the majority of which are facing south to harvest the sun's fullest capacity. In addition to the housing element, there are various other programmatic elements that make this model a successful one. Library, classrooms, clinic, market, living and dining rooms, and pottery classes and ovens. In the floor plans, there is a shift of elevation between various programmatic elements. This is both literal to respond to the site's elevation drop of 20 feet and psychological to restate the shelter's motto of collaboratively elevating families. This is a section that shows the human scale of the project and how it reacts to the site and the urban fabric that surrounds it. The housing follows the housing first typology, which dictates having a manageable number of housing units, which in this case is 20 units. Here you can start to see how the living wall would adapt to the necessity of the location. Different residents require different levels of privacy in their housing units. This could be customizable by a variation in the number of pots put in the living wall. When the bottom row of the living wall is empty and the operable windows are open, a flow of breeze would run across the housing unit in what is known as cross ventilation. The living wall acts as the structure here and becomes a load-bearing wall in addition to being a shear wall. The living wall, collaboratively elevating families. By the way, this is 4 months later. I don't know if you recognize the silhouettes, but that's Sally, Bob, and after Bob got his life back on track, he met Sarah, his new girlfriend, and now they live happily ever after.